Hey YouTube, myself on here, and welcome to another Let's Talk Yu-Gi-Oh! Where I talk about random stuff that I want to do with Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment. Today I'm going to talk about side decking, because side decking is something like I didn't used to really. Well, I had a side deck, but I never was like really knew what I was doing with it. It was just always cards that I thought, that could be useful sometime or another, and then I didn't really use it that much. And I've got, slightly better, but I just couldn't get around the fact that I had to take out cards in my deck to side deck. But then, like, I don't, if you watch my other video, you'll know that I won my last locals, which I'm not trying to brag, because that's not very, some people are like, oh, I've won loads of locals, but that's just, I'm really happy about that. But yeah, and I feel like I used the side deck really well. It was pretty funny because I played 4 different plant variants. I don't like calling them plant decks, but that's what kind of all of them had, those 4 plants. And, my side deck won games, and it can be really important. I mean, side decks vary over what people like. Like, at the moment, I love this guy, Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. I run 2 of him and 1 DD Crow, but I know most people would rather use Crows instead of this guy. But, for me, this guy's been working really well with my kind of like aggressive kind of just summon and bash down. That's been working really well. And obviously not everybody can play cards like Gozen Match, which is also a great card in Plant Matchup. That pretty much won me game 3 against Junk Doppel. Haha, Harry Loveless. But so side decking can really be vital in, there's basically 3 things to side decking. Firstly, you're putting in cards that are useful against your opponent's core strategy. So obviously stuff like Kaiku is good against plants removing their stuff from the graveyard, and it's good against like Chaos, stopping them from doing any of their big plays. Stuff like that, and like the mirrors, Shadow Imprisoning and Light Imprisoning, people side them in sometimes, that is to stop your opponent doing things with their cards. There's that side decking, and that's probably, how most people view side decking. I am trying to stop the opponent's cards, and I don't main deck these cards because it's not good against every deck, but I'm siding these in because they stop my opponent. Then there's the second part of siding in is you can also side against stuff that your opponent is siding in against you. So, for example, like Dark World. What's siding against Dark World? Well, debunks maybe, DD Crows, Shadow Imprison Mirrors, D Fishes. So maybe they side into more Spelling Trap hate. Maybe they side in, some more. I don't know. Well, DD Crow is a bit there because they can drag down and stuff, but you can side in cards that stop the cards that your opponent's going to be playing against you, which is slightly risky because they can be dead, but if it pays off, if you have that 3 MSTs instead of just 1, and so you can draw into it more easily, get rid of what they're storing you down with, then sometimes that's really useful. Like I've seen like Asian decks that like side out like most of their lights just because they're so scared of leeching the light that they're like, okay, I'll just go into like a kind of stun variant. I personally don't think that's a good idea, but if it works, it works. And then the third thing you can do with your side deck is take out cards that are bad against, or take out cards that are bad against the matchup, or that your opponent, or that can change your deck, So like the plant decks, I'm seeing more and more that they just take out like 4 plants, 1 for 1, and Foolish Burial, and Debris Dragon. They take out like those 7 cards, and then they're free to put in like Doom Cowls, Ryos, go more kind of stunny, and then the opponent's like, oh, my Crow is now, what do I do with this Crow? And so that's quite clever, and stuff like if you're against Gladiator Beasts, and you're like, I'm main decking Reapers, I have to take Reapers out against Gladiator Beasts because that's a no-no. That's not good. And things like that. So you have to make sure that what you've already got in your main deck isn't bad against what you're against. Like, if you're against macro, maybe you might take out your Monster Reborn, just in case you don't draw any Spell Trap Destruction. Take out your Pull of Avarice, take out, Obviously, the trick to side decking is you've got to look at your deck and go, okay, if I take that out, does my deck crumble, or does it still retain its pure strategy, but just with a bit of help against this specific matchup? Plants have it easy because plants, their whole deck is just good stuff. It's not an archetype. They can do stuff on their own, and so they have lots and lots of space for teching out stuff. Whereas it's harder with agents, because you've got to retain that agenty center while also adding in a few cards, which is it can be tricky, but you got to I've got a plan with side decking. I just take out my 4 TGs and a Pod of Duality, pretty much everything, and then maybe the Spirit Reapers sometimes come out, sometimes don't, and that's pretty good for me. I've actually, in a moment of sheer boredom, for Brighton, you can't see this because it's mirror imaged, don't know why, but these are just 27, I think they are, matchups that I might face, stuff there's Plants, Agents, Rabbit, but then even stuff like Infirmities, Frog Monarchs, Dragoonity, Offering Gadget, Samurai, Worms, even Exodia I've put in. These are all what I'd side out and what I'd side in, just because I sat down and I thought about it, and so, sometimes it's useful to just think about it, and it's also a good check of your side deck to make sure that you can cover pretty much all bases, because it is quite difficult nowadays, because that's 27, and I wouldn't be surprised if I saw any of those 27 at at Brighton. I wouldn't be shock, because they're all reasonable decks and they can all win some. So you've got to. That's the problem nowadays. Lots of pro players oh no, there's too many decks. You can't side it. You can't. How can you put your side deck to all these decks when you've only got 15 cards? Well, just make sure that your side deck isn't it's a bit open. I could side in quite a lot of cards against most matchups, at least 5 or 4 in some cases, and it's good. You just gotta make sure that your side deck can be versatile, and also you've got to make sure that you've seen what are your bad matchups. If you know what your bad matchups are, then you can put in a bit more hate for them. I found a lot of people are thinking actually Dark World is really bad because they put loads of in when it first came out, then it kind of flopped a bit, and then they were like, oh okay, we'll take it out. But Dark World is actually really nasty, and Dark Smog is even nastier. So now you're going to have to kind of jiggle up, and people are starting to realise, actually, I need a bit of more hate against Dark World. So, just make sure what matchups you've got, and it should be fine. So that's pretty much all I got to say on side decking. I'll put a last little note about Inzector. Inzector are awesome. If they don't make a hit in the tiers and the meta, I would be greatly surprised, because I've been testing them out on DN and they're just ridiculous. I don't personally like the wind-up variant, but I don't know. Because I like the fact that you can main or side D-Fisher. I side it, and you can, first game you can go really consistent with Armageddon Knight and stuff, and Foolish Burial, and do that, and okay, that's really cool, and do Inzector stuff. Game 2, they side in Maxis, Effect Balers, DD Crows. You play D-Fisher, they can't do any of that, so you just insta-win and blow up all their stuff. It's just a ridiculous deck. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's bound to make some kind of impact. Probably going to be really expensive, which is a shame because I want to make it, but maybe I'll have to stick to Agents, but they're probably going to get hit in March, so yeah, but it's going to be cool. This is a kind of countdown to Brighton. I'm trying to put out a video every day, so probably not going to do it, but yeah, this has been the Mighty Self On, and I'm signing out.